Newcastle 2, Spurs 3 is how it all ended at St James's Park on Sunday afternoon. The start of the new era of Saudi-owned Newcastle United didn't get off to a winning start. I think by the end of the match it just highlighted to me how damaged this club really is after the last owner. There's so much to be done and time is not on our side. Let's look at some of the main takeaways we can take from the resultant performance, as well as consider the wider context of Newcastle United right now. Let's start with the most obvious point, shall we? Number 1, Steve Bruce must go. In fact, by the time you watch this, perhaps he will already have gone. We can only hope. Despite what his mates in the media want to try and tell us, their pal Steve Bruce is not doing a good job. And I don't even base this just on the results, which are obviously shocking anyway, certainly this season. In the last 38 games in the Premier League that he's managed, Newcastle have won just 9 of them. We have not won at all this season and we sit in the bottom 3 with just 3 points from 8 matches so far. So that's all very depressing. However, what the stats fail to tell you is also the context of all this. Bruce's media mates are reluctant to point out the obvious stuff that fans have to endure week in and week out. Mainly the lack of tactical awareness from the manager, not knowing his best team or formation, the lack of fitness in the squad, the sheer number of minor injuries we're plagued with is not a coincidence, the poor training regime and the general erosion of cohesive play. The media never want to point out how our defensive record has progressively declined each season, even though it's essentially the same bunch of players who were able to keep a lot of matches tight under Rafa. Some people say, yes, well, Rafa's record was no better, which is factually inaccurate. Rafa took charge of 100 matches for the club, excluding the championship matches, and his win percentage was 33.33%. Bruce has had 97 matches at the club, and his win percentage is 28.9%. Now, I'm not saying football wasn't boring at times, but we trusted the plan under Rafa. And remember, Rafa never had the luxury of the attacking players Bruce now has at his disposal. But aside from that, Rafa was building something. We were headed somewhere because he had a vision and a plan. With Bruce, it feels like he's been dismantling it all step by step rather than having some sort of vision and plan to work towards. He simply has to go. Takeaway number 2 from this match is that the defence is a mess. Now, the defence is struggling big time. Newcastle United, as it stands, are on course to concede 90 goals this season. 90! As I just mentioned a lot, this can be squared at Bruce, but not everything. At the end of the day, the players cross that white line and they need to take some of the responsibility. And at times, even the basics are looking difficult for some of them right now. Standing off players around the edge of the box, not closing down well enough, and even positionally, you have to question what is going on. Against Spurs, we were exposed massively once they got into the game. As I say, some of this is coaching undoubtedly, but because a well-drilled defence in midfield will stop some of these things happening. But the reality is that some of these players simply aren't up to standard. We need them to be better than the sum of their parts, and right now, they're probably less than the sum of their parts, and that's saying a lot. It's extremely worrying. Reinforcements have to arrive in January, but we also have to find a way of making it work until January, because there's so many matches to play with the current squad. We can't change anything until then. Takeaway number 3, surviving is going to be tough. Now, yeah, Ian, stating the obvious, surviving is going to be tough. No Newcastle supporter I have spoken to since the takeover, and that's a lot of them, has thought anything other than we're in a relegation battle. In the excitement of the takeover, we've all discussed new managers, new players, new training ground and stadium expansions. I've done it myself on this channel several times. But the match yesterday, aside from the first 10 minutes where the players were running on pure adrenaline, was a huge wake-up call. We're 8 matches in without a win now. We're playing awful anti-football and the squad is lacking confidence. The only aim of this season is to survive, by any means necessary. The new owners can, in my humble opinion, help us achieve that aim by changing managers before the next game at the weekend. We need someone to inject some new ideas into this downbeat squad. The fans are all behind the players now, 100%, and importantly behind everyone at the club. But we're under no illusions that this season is anything other than a relegation battle. We also have a target on our back now. Everyone will want to prove a point by beating us, and people would love to see Newcastle go down. But as a club, we have to rise together and do everything that we can in the next 30 matches to make sure we remain a Premier League club. You know, one way we can do that as fans is by doing what we saw yesterday. St James's Park, back at its rocking best. By the end of it, it might have all gone flat as reality dawned, but the pre-match atmosphere was absolutely just outstanding. And hats off to War Flags for their incredible display and poignant choice of words that they chose to display, taken from Jimmy Nail's Big River. We will rebuild. Seeing that and hearing the crowd welcome our new owners into the executive box and the players onto the pitch genuinely brought a tear to my eye, and I'm not afraid to admit that. It was wonderful. We really do have something special as a crowd, and it's something that has been slowly extracted from us over the past decade and a half. Those first 2 minutes when Wilson scored, I mean, It was just such a special moment. It doesn't matter what the result was really yesterday. We saw a glimpse of the future in the build-up and the start of the match. And there's no better stadium anywhere in the world when the crowd is as animated as it was yesterday. And that leads me on to number 5. We have hope again. Genuinely. How refreshing to see owners in the director's box cheering passionately for the team. How refreshing to see St James's Park packed to the rafters and everyone in full voice again. How refreshing to see the displays of flags once again, something that surely we can become known for under these new owners now. Once the team does finally start to take off, and we all hope it'll move up the table sooner rather than later, then we are going to see amazing atmospheres regularly again at St James's Park. But although we have issues within the squad, we also have an abundance of hope. We have the hope of a new manager coming in soon, who will bring fresh ideas and better methods. Someone who will play players in position and in an organised and rehearsed way. There's some decent, talented players in that squad, I really believe that. Yes, the defence is a worry, but attacking-wise, we have players capable of causing most teams in the league problems. If you can score goals in this league, you give yourself a better chance of surviving. And as it stands, Newcastle have scored more goals than half of the teams in the Premier League. Saint-Maximin and Wilson are going to be absolutely crucial to keep fit, particularly in the run-up to January, where we then have that fresh hope that new signings are going to bring us. There's a lot to look forward to, a lot to be excited about, but the new owners have a heck of a job on their hands to steady this ship, and I think yesterday will have really hit home just how big a task phase 1 of the regeneration of Newcastle United is going to be. Don't get me wrong, Tottenham thoroughly deserved the win yesterday. They were a much better team than us, and you know, we're not competing with Tottenham this season. They outplayed us for 80 minutes of the match, and they thoroughly deserved their win. But moving forward, Newcastle United need to improve quickly and start winning games really, really soon.